Welcome to the Heart of the Equation, where analytical minds explore leadership, professional growth, and the human side of success.
This is the space for business professionals in a STEM field to reflect, grow, and redefine success on their terms.
Together, we'll dive into challenges, transformations, and stories that can help you build an authentic, purpose-driven career.
Let's get this started.
Hi, welcome to this episode of our podcast, The Heart of the Equation. Today we have with us Nadjia Drici, a global IT leader from Pharma. Welcome, Nadjia.
Hi, Anisa. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Nadjia. So excited to have you here. We have so many questions for you because you have so many dimensions. You're a leader in pharma, your background in IT. We know you're very much into gender equality, or like equality in education, equal access to education. You're supporting some causes in Africa, we've heard. So it's super exciting to have someone like you who can share a lot of experiences from the corporate world, but also coaching, mentoring, supporting other people and creating this type of impact. So welcome to a podcast. We are so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm delighted to be joining the two of you. Thank you for having me. It's quite an honor.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
so much.
being there. Maybe you would like a little bit tell us about you.
Of
What are
course.
you passionate about? What are you doing? All the sites that Sarah described.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to. So if we take it from where I am today, I'm based in Switzerland. I was born and raised in Paris, in France, to a multicultural family originally from Algeria. And I studied, I knew I wanted to be in science and have the power of science help advance healthcare and medicine. Until a point where I also was told, I didn't discover it on my own, but I realized the power of computer science combined to scientific research was really booming at the time that I was graduating from university. And so I went to an exchange program, Erasmus. I often joke that I am a pure product of the European Union. So my Erasmus exchange took me to Sweden, Stockholm. First time I lived a professional experience outside of France or Algeria. And it was an eye-opening experience for me where the world truly showed me how global and diverse it was. And so it was much richer than just lab work in research. I learned computer science. I learned to program to help my research, and I discovered a whole world of global diversity in public research in science. And I came back to finish my master's degree in bioinformatics from Paris and Stockholm. But that virus of discovering the world and traveling had already infected me. And even though growing up, I really thought my biggest dreams would be Paris. That was the highest achievement I had in my head at the time. I really thought, wow, if we have any French speakers in the audience, I thought crossing the périphérique would be the wildest journey I could take. So going from suburban Paris to central Paris with access to culture, beauty, knowledge, museums, corporations. I really thought that was the biggest trip I could ever take in my life. And Sweden opened my eyes to, wow, there is something else outside of central Paris, outside of the heart of what I thought my life would cover. And from Paris, I moved to the UK with my first out of university employer. I lived in England for a few years, always working in healthcare and at the intersection of computer science and research in pharma, which then led me to working in England, working in Switzerland a few years ago when I moved, and having the privilege of leading many global teams in global corporations, always anchored in what can we do to help advance patients' health and their communities and the surroundings of those patients. So very fortunate that my path was never written, or I didn't think it was written that way, and I embraced a few different steps. I'm learning to also open up and show a little bit more of all of those facets that we all have and how that can help us do the best work we can to help support the causes we believe in. So that's a little bit about me.
Oh, that's exciting. I couldn't stop myself thinking about Sweden because I studied there too, and I also did later on study some British programs.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, I could totally resonate with that. Yeah,
Hmm.
that when you study in a different country, it just opens your eyes, and suddenly all
Absolutely.
plans change and everything. That was so inspiring what you shared about your interest in making impact in patients' lives.
Mhm.
And how did that start? Because I think most people go to university, they have like a career path. What
Hmm.
position would kind of, help me have an income and live that life and all
Yes.
of that. Maybe this is not exactly the first thing a lot of people think about. So what was that point that you thought, oh, this equality is something that matters to me?
I was raised in an environment that never made me feel less than a boy. And I was very aware from a very young age that that was a privilege. That wasn't everybody's childhood. Um, my parents, both of them, never pushed anything on us, my sisters and I. I have three sisters, no brothers, and we were never made. I didn't feel that I was less than a boy. I actually felt that I wanted to study. They let me study. And that was a privilege because I really understood early on. I think I was very aware that in the world that I lived in, not every young girl could have access to learning and reading. And I loved reading. I mean, I was really boring in the sense that I would come to the breakfast table and read the cereal packs. And I didn't like to play outside. And I was really, life was good when I was reading. I truly loved traveling in stories. We didn't have a very privileged childhood, but I had access to dreaming and escaping in reading my books, and I knew that not everyone around me had access to school. My two grandmothers, for example, they never went to school. They didn't know how to read or write. And and so I think I was very aware early on that girls around the planet, boys around the planet, didn't have the same access to education that I was enjoying and loving so much. I mean, reading was cool. I learned a lot of things. I discovered stories. My mind could go to different places. So I guess culturally and with the family that I had and the history that I come from and those that were before me, I was very acutely aware of how school and education were the unlocking answer for me. I knew that in France at the time, I have to also recognize that access to education was relatively affordable. You could go very far up in university degrees without necessarily having a privileged background or information. And I felt that it was a promise. The promise of reading and school was a big thing for me, learning. And even now I am a constant learner. And I know that about me, that I want to be in learning mode, in discovery mode. Maybe that's why I embrace science, but that's also why I embrace curiosity with other topics. And so from a very early age, I was made very clearly aware of not everyone around the planet will have access to school. I mean, in the 80s, it was not easy all around the planet. So that's not something that ever left me.
Mm.
Through childhood, and I would say even now, maybe more than ever, I have a sense of responsibility in how I give back. And how I give back is maybe by telling a little bit more about my story and embracing the fact that now there is a younger generation that is looking up to see what can be done in the world and how you don't have to have your path figured out from the get-go. I didn't know everything I needed to know when I was 18 and entering university. It's easy for me to say now, oh, it was easy and comfortable. It wasn't. It was a scary, terrifying world to get into. But my message now is to try and be comfortable with not knowing, embracing a little bit more of how open the paths can become if you allow your mind and your heart to go into that direction. And so I try to be involved a little bit more in telling a little bit more about me and being more open about the stories that have led me to where I am today, and in shaping education programs where I can in underprivileged communities where we can help build access to school, reading, learning tools to try and have a new future for underprivileged kids, particularly in Botswana, where I'm very actively involved, Algeria as well, and more generally around Africa.
Oh, that's so inspiring. It's also, what you shared, both Anisa and I, we come from originally, we were born in Iran. But I always see this story, especially women in Afghanistan, which is not far away. It's just everything that is so taken for granted here in Switzerland. It comes at a cost for some people. In Africa, it's just a woman who just wants to go to, I don't know, primary school, just wants to finish high school. There's so much effort, so much fight that has to happen. And we forget about it, living our comfortable lives here. This is so important. I also loved what you shared about being comfortable with not knowing. I think this especially matters a lot right now that
Yes.
things are changing so fast right now. I have a business, and what used to work for me last year doesn't work anymore. So I do other things, and I didn't need to be like that before. I kind of see like, ooh, and I don't plan too much as I used to. So this is really a key thing to be okay, be comfortable with uncertainty and not having the answers.
Absolutely. It's hard. I mean, it comes with an inner journey of growing in comfort with asking people to help you. I think many of us, if we have immigrant backgrounds, if we learn to go into science and high education and embrace the tough topics that can be STEM, technology, science, engineering, all of that. I know I will speak for myself. Maybe it was not always easy for me to ask for help. You have a sense of self-inflicted responsibility of doing it all and doing it well and performing for you and for others and helping. And I now I'm navigating that dimension of I like that side of me, the helper, and supporting others and helping coach and mentor and develop those that want my help. Absolutely, I embrace that. But it also comes with knowing yourself a little bit better and understanding and learning when to ask for mentorship and help yourself. And that's something that came to me. I was lucky enough. I was mentored by really bright minds, men and women, really bright minds, and people who would have seen potential in me much before I saw it in myself, much before I saw any potential, any reality of, wow, I can have a career in technology in pharma. That's so far from what 18-year-old me would have seen. And something that I can never forget, and I share back now with anyone who would ask, is people will be generous with their time. Most people, most senior people that we are maybe intimidated by, or we think they're very busy and they will never find 10 minutes for us, they will tend to say yes. They will tend to be driven by a sense of giving back and help coach and mentor and help you solve a question. So people will be incredibly generous with their time, more than we may realize. And so it's just that courage to go and ask that question of, hey, do you have 20 minutes for me? I'm not really sure what to do with this opportunity. It's always served me. It's always served me. It's always served around those around me who had the courage to go and, hey, raise a hand and have a chat. People in the corporate world will be incredibly generous with their time and typically are driven by a sense of giving back, mentoring and helping others. And that's what drives me. That's what I try to sort of instill in others. And that helps you navigate a path that may not be written all along, but you can sort of build those steps as you go. And for me, really, it's working a lot on the inner dialogue, the inner voice that tells you you're never going to be good enough for this, or you can't do that, or you're not a technology leader, woman, you studied biology. Why are you considering those career moves? We all are, everyone has an inner dialogue that may be a little bit negative. And I've moved from looking at all the reasons why I can't do something, all the reasons why not, to try and consciously cultivate all the reasons why yes, and embrace a little bit more open mind to change and new challenges. And I try to speak about that so that other people can also see that it can happen, and it can help. Even if one person takes that story, it's a positive outcome for me.
Maybe we can talk more about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a spirit of building that positive attitude, right? Because that is not something that you do from one day to others. The journey that you build and you create. Maybe you like to share how you have built it for yourself and what is the impact that you see with whom you are working with or on your projects.
Yeah. I think understanding that no one makes it alone in any aspect of maybe your private life or your professional life. It's I talk a lot about asking for help and helping others. There is value in recognizing what a support system can do for you, whether it's at work or outside. So leaning on others, leaning on a circle of trust that can help you get to your goals, that you can openly discuss your current challenges or your doubts or something you're considering. The support system is critical, and leaning on friends, coaches, allies, and mentors is really something that can definitely help. It has helped me a lot, and I embrace that in at every step of life. There's no expiration date of needing help. I've accepted. The other thing I'm discovering now, as I embrace the second half of my life, is really no one has it all figured out. This whole myth of when I get to that milestone or that project end or that big house, I will be happy and I will have figured it out. No one has everything figured out ever. It's all a how do I navigate the questions and try and work out some of those answers. And so that reassurance of it's all an open question, an open equation, to quote the title of the podcast. And as long as you do a little bit of your research and you're solving and you work on with effort and commitment to try and achieve something meaningful that does good around you, that doesn't harm, I think that's all you can ask for. And so for me, it's, my career was all about performance, top level performance, even my university, all of that. We tried to always get to a high level of performance and perhaps competition, but opening the door to leaning on others, getting help and helping, that's been very meaningful in how I lead and how I coach others. For example, people that report into me where I don't need to speak as much as I used to. I don't need to provide all of the answers, even if maybe that's what's expected of me. So I try to foster an environment where I become better at asking questions more than providing answers. I become better as maybe speaking less in circles where I am the most senior. I want to be able to provide a space and safety for the teams that work with me, cross-functional teams from various parts of the organization, where my motto is to try and foster cross-functional collaboration and open dialogue. So leadership has become for me more about speaking less, listening more, listening to what's not being said as much as what's being said, and having that, the spectrum of communication is very important for me to pay attention to, because then I can sort of redirect my presence, my input, and how we get to solve questions together.
Wow. So this is quite interesting. What you shared is all the characteristics of a good coach, basically. Like true coaches, at least according to the ICF, the International Coaching Federation, they all you're supposed to listen to everything. You're supposed to really pay attention to the human behavior if you really want to help them grow. And so this was quite interesting. But you touched on something which also I come across that a lot, and that is about support. Because I notice, in my work, I work with a lot of high-performing people. They have the education, they have like all the credentials, they have the experience, they even have the money, everything. But what is happening, especially with women, also in the STEM field, is that they even have the growth mindset. They are often under-supported, but over-supporting. And this creates an imbalance of energy that blocks people, and they don't know why they are not moving forward, because they're doing everything and they're putting so much work into it. But what is really underestimated is that support system you just talked about. Without that, you could be superhero on paper, but go nowhere. So, as a woman who has worked in STEM, like science, technology, everybody who's from science, technology, materials, listening to this, what made you notice that you need that support system, and what is specifically it looks like for someone in the corporate world who wants to become a leader?
I have a very vivid memory of my first coding project at university. I was not a computer science person ever. I was so intimidated by the computer science work that we had to do, building a database, coding. That was so foreign to me. I was very comfortable learning the structure of proteins and amino acids, and I really knew nothing about the logic of coding. The beauty of that degree that I took is it gave me lifelong friends that I'm still very connected to, but we had a spirit of group work. So I could lean on others in my master's and say, I had tears in my eyes not knowing how to start that project, which was due the next week, or things that seemed very unbearable to me. That's my first, I would say, vivid memory of adult struggle in a deliverable, and others either came to help or I asked for help. I don't really remember, but it was very memorable that I got better by leaning on others and asking questions. And they had questions to ask of me, and I would help them with maybe the meaning of the science behind the code for them. So we were very complementary in that, in a lot of our project work back then. That's an anchor in accepting that I can't know everything. It would be so, without going too deep into psychology, it would be so the opposite of humility if I thought I can know everything. And I was 18, I was 20, I was 25. So from a sense of understanding and accepting that no one knows everything, which means that everyone needs a little bit of help sometime. That's really how I try to live the work that I do and the projects that I have. And in pharma, as in many other industries, Anisa, you know that we worked in the same company. Sara, it's the same thing for you in your space. The pressure and the deadlines, they only grow faster. They only grow bigger. And you're still the same person. So it's accepting that something has to give. I always believed in the breadth of your knowledge and the depth of that knowledge. And so can you really know everything in depth about everything? Working as a team helps me balance that knowledge. If you thought about it as a knowledge map, I have people in my team that can be strong here, strong there, other people that will be strong here. I bring strength here. Building that colorful map together is my way of looking at it creatively, and accepting and showing acceptance with others that not everyone needs to know everything in depth about everything. We all respect and honor the commitment to patients, to the purpose of my job. I work in what I think a world with a mission. I work with pharma and the industry that helps advance healthcare around the globe. So I really believe in that mission and the noble aspect of the work we do, curing diseases, giving a better quality of life to families that need that. I am driven by this, and I love it very much. Actually, I love the cause very deeply, which means that because I honor the cause more than I work for me, it gives me permission to lean on others and really embrace that collective to try and advance the cause. So I also believe in that sense of it's more than me, and a lot of us are driven by this sense of purpose and the responsibility of the mission we have. That's my answer.
Wow, so
I feel
beautiful.
like you probably have noticed it as well, Sarah. You mentioned that is not humility if we do not ask, right? So I think that is kind of a new aspect and new thinking that is actually something positive if I ask, because I admit that I don't know anything, everything. I invite humility, I invite collaboration, I invite also growing, learning, right? And many times people they do not ask because they're ashamed to ask. And replacing that shame with inviting humility and learning, the whole aspects change. And you have noticed it probably, and you have questions, Sarah. Maybe just before going to Sarah's question, I have something that on my heart and I want to ask. So you are leading cross-functional, quite big teams, right? From different cultures and creating that safe space to support, ask, to do not be shy or ashamed to ask support. How are you creating that atmosphere practically? What are you doing to make people feel safe with their nervous system, with their emotion? How are you keeping that space for them?
I've learned a lot from others. I've been very privileged to work in large, global, diverse organizations. So multicultural was one of my biggest learnings, beyond learning how to be a tech leader and learning how to manage people. The multicultural diversity that I enjoyed very much actually is one of my most crucial learnings from the last 20 years. When I then continued my studies and my adult executive education, and I focused a lot on that, on the diversity of teams and the cultural nature of what we do, and how we're all influenced by a certain sense of truth, but it might be my truth will be different to yours for various reasons. And so I learned that culturally people will tend to be a little bit more comfortable with silence, as an example. There are cultures where silence becomes uncomfortable very quickly, and we feel that silence. Other cultures will honor silence, honor a question by giving it silence to think about that. And so what do? Do I jump in and answer immediately because I know the answer? Or do I enter a dance of mutual respect and understanding that you're taking time to reflect on my question, showing me respect for the question and showing me I'm giving it time and consideration because it deserves it? That's how I learned. And I share a lot about my multicultural experiences. I worked in Asia quite a lot, in the Americas quite a lot, all over Europe and Africa. And that has nurtured who I've become. So I give examples to my teams of stories and conversations and how they went. And then I think I've had quite a strong sense of my own responsibility in when I'm the most senior person in a room, any room, the behaviors I reward and the behaviors I tolerate. So if I'm going to tolerate that you interrupt a conversation and you're being very rude about not letting anybody speak or overtaking a conversation or barely respecting some of the dynamics that are going on, even if it has been hard at times for me, I've had to really be mindful and aware of the behaviors that I allow in a team become the behaviors that I allow in a team. So I try to be very aware of that and also speak about those things in terms of rules of engagements and how we operate with one another and how the ways of working collectively are very important to establish very early on. I care a lot about what we deliver. Technology is a business supporting function. So what we deliver is crucial, and how we deliver it is just as crucial to me. So working collaboratively, fostering trust and credibility and respect. These are the things that I know my behaviors are modeling behaviors around me. And I give it time, I give it space. I don't only talk about what we deliver, we focus a lot on how we get that done and asking the right questions, respecting some of the questions and answers we hear, and having that very practical awareness of the world is different in other places.
That was very, very interesting what you shared, actually. It applies to every leader, not only corporate leaders. I kind of had to learn it the hard way. Even when you run your own company, whatever you model, it will come back to you. Your clients will mirror you, your team will mirror you. Everything you hate and you see in other people, it's you. So this is quite an awareness that you develop to see like the way I show up really matters. That would come back to me. And you need to take a lot of things into account to know how to show up. So my question for you is, a lot of people are looking into this path of leadership. That's something a lot of people who listen to our podcast are considering at some point. Leading maybe a small team is a bit different, but when at some point you become responsible for 10 people who are responsible for another 20 people and it becomes really big, what are the key qualities a leader of this large team needs to have to be able to not only survive this environment, but also do impact and enjoy it and have fun with it?
Um, I admire a lot people who make it look easy. So there are some leaders around you and me that will really make it look easy.
Yeah.
Nothing in life, nothing worthwhile comes easy. It's something I've learned and I embrace. So I would start by saying, do the work. Do the work. Know your stuff. Do the work. Understand, invest, honor what you're talking about, honor the work that's asked of you. So perform, meaning it's high quality deliverables. We have to honor what we do the work, do your research, understand your field you're entering, but never overlook what people call soft skills. I don't really like that name, but I don't have a better name. Nothing is soft about that. It takes a
No,
lot
it's
of
hard.
it takes a lot of we're talking about that inner work, self-awareness. Everybody has blind spots. I always do that. Everyone has blind spots, and it's that self-awareness muscle that really can be a superpower. Other superpowers, for me at least, in terms of growing as a leader, are all about cultivating and building a muscle that I call resilience, a muscle. You have to embrace change. Everything in my space, in my corporate space, constant change. Nothing is forever. We go through cycles of adjusting and adapting to a market, to patient needs, to research and how it changes. So agility and openness of spirit and heart, the resilience of, I fell, my experiment failed and it didn't succeed, but I'll dust it off and come back up and try again. That's the power of research and science. It takes time, investment, energy, and sweat, tears to get a product out that makes a difference in someone's health and life. So resilience is important. Understanding that no one succeeds alone. In my world, in pharma, I see a lot of alliances and partnerships in getting research to advance the benefits of society. So no one gets to succeed alone. Small scale, big corporate scale, it's the same. So understanding that you will benefit from fostering collaboration, cross-functional collaboration, cross-company collaboration, cross-cultural collaboration, working together, getting people to understand what makes you tick, what motivates you, getting to the heart of people and the heart of the change you're trying to conduct. These are clues that I try to look for in my programs. It comes with being a little bit more comfortable with being open, telling your story, being vulnerable with what you're struggling with and what we talked about, asking for help, working together on solving big life problems. So knowing your facts, being credible, trusted as a partner to your business, as an example, knowing your facts, doing the what's hard, understanding what, and then not neglecting how you get that done, how you show up for others, how you lead your teams, how you show up for yourself as well. Can I go home and pass a red face test that today I didn't do any harm intentionally, that today I did my best and I may not have had all my answers today, but maybe I'll go back to it tomorrow and I'll think about it even further. There's a lot of resilience and adaptability that are crucial skills in today's business life where everything is so volatile and changing, that I think these are the superpowers of tomorrow. Negotiation, influencing, fostering collaboration. All of those skills are helpful in life and in business life, where ultimately it's just one life that you live and you show up as who you are.
That was so
No,
important. Yeah, I
I
love it.
love that.
Yeah, and so realistic. Yeah.
We need to replace that soft skills with superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I don't want to see soft skills anymore. On LinkedIn, I like to see superpowers. From my side, I want to ask from my side last question.
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave it to Sarah. I want to go back, very back from the beginning that you came and then talk a little bit about yourself and what you're passionate about. You talk about something that I have it also in my heart, and it is equal education for both
Mm-hmm.
and men,
Mm-hmm.
boys and girls. From your side, how do you see that education of girls and women in specific can really bring the world forward and can contribute to the enhancement, to the betterment, to the change and transformation of the world.
I am a simple scientist. Girls and women make up 50%, more than 50% of the world population. At the same time, if I talk about my field of healthcare, women's health is massively under-researched and massively underfunded, as an example. And then overall, outside of pharma, for example, often the burden of looking after the household or sustaining others falls onto the young girls or a young woman. To me, even if you don't see the very deep nature of you should treat everyone as equal, and you're only thinking about it with a business lens, it makes unquestionable business sense to empower women across all of society to be more business leaders, entrepreneurs, build their own businesses, whether it's small or big. So even if this very simple, basic need of equality amongst all of us as humans, even if that can sometimes feel very hard to explain in this world, if anything, it makes business sense. You have consumers that are 50% women. You have leaders of tomorrow that are 50% women. You have entrepreneurs that can create and develop your economy at your local scale or in bigger nation scale. Business sense dictates that you empower every young child, boy or girl, to try and build and contribute and give back to business growth and economic development.
Yeah, so important and so simple, but yeah, we're struggling with that right now. It's in reality, it's a big challenge. We could talk to you forever. It's just I'm just conscious of the time. Before, as our last question, I know you're doing something in Botswana, you have this project. I really would love you to share about that. And also, if there is anything you like to leave our listeners with, any takeaways, anything they need to know before we say goodbye to you for now.
Thank you. I will say that I've looked for ways of giving back the vast majority of my adult life. And I'm so glad that I found a small nonprofit founded in Switzerland by two friends of mine. Wow. They founded the small village Botswana. They're two sisters. And they welcomed me with my ideas of how I wanted to help and what can I do to help you and also be part of giving back, really. I am very attached to Africa. It's where my roots are. I was impressed with how those two sisters went from nothing to really create a movement in Botswana. The Small Village Botswana, this nonprofit that is Swiss-based, works in empowering local growth. So different projects helping kids who have had to drop out of school for various difficult circumstances. Food is a critical basic need that we often can take for granted in advanced economies. You can't really learn on an empty stomach. So everything I said about learning and education and high levels of knowledge and science, how can I focus if I don't really know when my next meal is, or if the excitement of getting an apple at school is about taking it home and sharing it with my siblings? That's really what I've seen in Botswana going there. So we work a lot with supporting children that have had to drop out of school for various reasons. So building reinsertion education programs to take them back to the school system. We don't ignore the fact that food is a basic primary need that has a critical impact on safety and making sure that those children can then feel safe, thrive in learning. So we have feeding programs that donations from all over the world help us fund locally. All of the donations go to our projects. And then there's also a stigma in many societies where the elderly can also be perceived as a burden if they can't really earn an income. So in the small village Botswana, we also support an elderly home in Maun. It's a small village that is often the beginning of safaris, exotic safaris for international tourists, but very neglected when tourism falls back. And we've seen that with COVID. When the first thing that we dropped was international travel, poverty really took a whole new turn in many underprivileged societies. So I'm very privileged to have had the chance to go this year. I went on site and I saw it with my own eyes, and the power of collective good and helping collectively to try and come on site, hear from kids and adults locally, understand what would help them, and see the impact of the donations and the projects we've been building has been rewarding beyond words. And so I'm very dedicated to this cause. I wish I could do more in Botswana and all over other underprivileged places. We always say in the small village Botswana that it takes a village to raise a child. And so even being able to help a small group of children by this collective support network and what we discussed, leaning on others to help you take your next steps, that's been an incredible, rewarding journey for me. That sort of helps me with this sense of responsibility where I'm very aware of the privilege that I've had with my access to education, with the career that I've built, with the mentors that have seen me before I saw myself. And it's natural, I think, for most people to want to give some of that back and help the next generation. And I hope I can play my role in that endeavor.
Wow, thank you. So touched by what you do, Nadjia. That's amazing.
Thank
you
you
so much for being here and sharing your story today.
Thank you both for having me. It's been an
We're
honor.
honored to have you, Nadjia, and I'm sure our audience want to have the information about your project and maybe
Absolutely.
just join to the donators.
Every little helps. And so
Yes.
that's what I'm learning also. Every little helps.
Yeah,
Nothing is too big and nothing is too small.
sure. We'll share about it in the show notes and everywhere we share about this podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nadjia, and thank you so much to everyone who's listening, and goodbye from my side.
Thank you so much. See you in the next episode. Thank you, Nadjia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to The Heart of the Equation. If this episode sparked something for you, we'd love to hear about it.
Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and connect with us on LinkedIn or Instagram to continue the conversation.
And if you know someone who is navigating their next career step, share this episode with them. It could be exactly what they need.
We see you next time as we explore more about leading with purpose, resilience, and authenticity.
Let's keep growing together.